Sitting out here in the woods in Tahoe, and I thought, what a awesome place to just sit and tell my story. I've never sat down and just told it all the way through. So for a video, I've told it one other time for some friends. In 2006, in 2005, I went away to college in Denver, and I was living in a water damaged basement. And that's where my dorm was, in the basement level, I should say. And I was starting to have worse anxiety my senior year of high school. I started having anxiety knowingly for the first time. And then in 2006, I ended up having an anaphylactic shock while running on a treadmill. And we didn't know what it was from. So I did a whole bunch of testing and nothing came back with anything conclusive, no foods or anything like that. So I went to doctor after doctor. I kept having issues. Symptoms were just multiplying constantly. I was a year later in Ireland, and I had a second anaphylactic shock with a torticollis episode, which is where you get stuck in some position with your head or neck, I think specifically, and I was stuck like that. So my neck had severe trauma because of being stuck like that for hours. And then I ended up going back home, and we're like, okay, we really need to figure out what's going on. So I saw more doctors. They were naturopathic and Western, and we first mainly went the Western route, and finally in 2009 I came back with a conclusive Lyme test from IGeneX, and that started me on my first round of treatments with a doctor in the Bay Area. And at that time we didn't really know too much about detox and all the things, so I ended up having IV treatment for, I think it was 5 weeks every day at home. And I ended up having my gallbladder taken out after another mystery. We're not sure what's going on, and them telling me that there was nothing wrong. So I got my gallbladder taken out after a few weeks of trying to figure that out. And then we're like, okay, this isn't working. So then I went on to get more testing done. Still couldn't figure out what was going on. So even though I had the Lyme, we're like, okay, but what else is going on? Because we really didn't know in 2009 everything that Lyme could have. So we're like, well, that Lyme treatment didn't work, thinking okay, there's one and done, right? There's just one type of treatment for it. After that, I ended up seeing a few other naturopaths and Western medical doctors, and getting for different things done, trying to figure out if there was anything else that was going on. And I can't remember everything that happened in the meantime. I mean, it was mainly lots of at-home treatments and supplements, and getting acupuncture, and trying every kind of diet that I could, because back to the allergies, I ended up continuously having worsening symptoms with food. So I was feeling sick. I was having rashes break out. I was having nervous system pain, restless leg kind of stuff throughout the whole body. I was feeling, I don't know, every single system in the body was being affected by after I ate something, after I took certain kinds of supplements, everything. So in 2014, I ended up going to a treatment center in Arizona, and that treatment center had me on IVs for, I think it was 15 weeks of all different kinds of natural antibiotics, Rocephin, azithromycin, I I'm pretty sure that I was on, what was it, oh god, I can't think, MSM, no, that's not it. The like industrial bleach, which is like a kind of a weird thing. I'm pretty sure that that was in intravenous, was the MMS, I think it is. A lot of this stuff has like kind of left my mind. It's almost like a I don't need that anymore trauma type thing, and I just forgot it, where I used to know like super in detail like how things worked and what I was taking, and now it's kind of all like, okay, I don't need that anymore. So I ended up on high levels of vitamin C bags and all sorts of different things. I can't remember everything. I think there was also Manos that I was on. They had like a few different weird things that they were trying. There was like a intravenous ultraviolet light that they put into like your vein, and it was really big, and they had a lot of trouble getting it into most people's veins, and mine are really small, so that was definitely something that was not pleasant to have to try. I also did try to do the infrared saunas, but after the first one I was in it for 15 minutes and I passed out afterwards. I had to get out. I was supposed to be in there for like an hour, and I was just like I tried it a few times after that at like a lower temperature, but it made me so sick every time. My body couldn't deal with the like amount that was detoxing from what I understand was happening to me. Found out that I had a whole bunch of different genetic components going on from Genemind labs, and so I was on some supplements to help with that, but some of those supplements still weren't helping me. It was like too much for my body at the time. So in 2017, I went back to that treatment center for another type of treatment for my candida, which was like absolutely off the charts. I had like candida all the time for like a month straight. I had this is totally TMI, but it's what happened, like totally broken open vaginal yeast infection that was just like excruciating. Like I basically just laid in bed, and my mouth was broken open, my ears were infected with candida, like basically like everything, like my entire gut. And then I had this treatment called antidulafungin, and this was another study that they were doing, so it wasn't something that they had any research on if it was actually going to work, but I was just desperate. Now looking back, like I would have never done that, because I had a round of like 6 months of fluconazole, and after that I was so much worse than before I even started, once like all that came out of my system. So I should have learned from my mistakes, but I was so desperate, I wanted to try anything. So at this point I also had like my skin was broken open everywhere, like my arms, my chest, everything was broken open, my entire face, everything was broken open in rashes. And so just even like getting in the shower at this point was just excruciating. So I ended up during this treatment having a lot of things coming out of my GI tract that I had never seen before, or that like maybe I noticed like a couple things, but like nothing that was what it was. So another TMI thing, this is really gross, but it's what happened. I was having, you can like fast forward 30 seconds if you don't want to hear this, but I was having like worms coming out that were like 2 feet long. There's no way this could have been food. There's no way this could have been like anything else except for worms. And I had like all different kinds of parasites coming out, like so many different varieties. I have some videos with pictures of those from like my old videos. They're really disgusting if you want to check them out. But if you're having this going on, you might want to see that. Just even if it doesn't give you any like real answers, just to say like somebody else is having this. So what was happening was the antidulafungin treatment, the antifungal treatment, was kicking out like all of these parasites that I had in my gut. And I always had extreme bloating, and I was eating like nothing. At this time I was eating like 1 pound to 2 pounds of meat a day, and I was eating just leafy green vegetables cooked in oil. That was it. So that was where all of my nutrients were coming from, because if I had even the littlest bit of carbs, like a cracker or a noodle or like even like a rice noodle or anything, it was excruciating. It would just cause the restless leg all over the body to be much worse. The rashes would be worse. Like everything was worse after this. So I ended up moving back to California at this point, and I was basically in a spot where I was like, okay, well, I can't do these treatments either. It's just causing me to be way worse. So I was doing I previously had been doing detox baths when like my skin would allow it, and now I started doing them just even more rigorously. Hyperthermia baths, where you have your temperature of your bath up really high, and you just sit in it until you sweat everything out. It was the only way that I could sweat out the toxins. Like if I was in the heat, in dry heat, there was absolutely no way. I would have extreme POTS symptoms. Above 80 degrees, I would start swelling. I would start getting really dizzy. I'd start losing my hearing and vision because the blood was dropping away from my head. And my veins would just pop out of my body everywhere. So I'd lay down with my feet up against a wall for a couple hours and wait for my heart rate to go back down and my blood pressure to go back up, and eat a bunch of salt. Also, during this time, the hearing and the sound and light sensitivity was like enormous. I basically couldn't go. This had been happening for a few years, but at this time it was worse than it was before that. So I ended up just sitting in bed a lot and just trying to just be. And I had started having trouble understanding languages. Throughout the years, I had trouble reading, which was never an issue for me. I couldn't understand it. I would read a sentence over and over and over and over, and then I would just like put the book down crying because like I could not understand what it said. My writing, my words would come out in, I have journals from this time, like the words were like backwards or in like the wrong order, or like I was creating like spellings of my own, which I've always kind of done a little bit, I won't lie, but like this was to like a new extent. I was having so much trouble, and my handwriting was horrible. So I think I had to completely stop journaling for a couple years because I couldn't do it. And then in 2018, after doing a bunch of research, finally decided to do stem cell therapy. I chose to go to Infusio in Beverly Hills, and wanted to have my own stem cells put in, and my own cells put back into my body. For some reason that just was really important to me. And then I did 2 weeks there, and the first like 2 weeks were basically like just bags and kind of the stuff that I had at the treatment center in Arizona. I felt much sicker on all of them. I never felt better taking any of those. I just kept trying it because that's what everybody's like saying to do, and they were slightly different things. So tried the 10 pass for the first time. There were just multiple different things, like slightly different, but some of the things were the same, if that makes sense. And then the second to last day, I had the stem cells put in. And almost immediately I went into a complete regression of like everything, or worsening, I guess, like some of the symptoms, because they ebbed and flowed constantly. It was like everything came on, like boom, here is all of the symptoms you've been experiencing, just poof, here they are, take them all at their worst. And My multiple chemical sensitivities were like extreme, which I forgot to mention was like another thing along with the hearing and sound. I put this in the same kind of category for myself, is that the multiple chemical sensitivities, just like stimulation, no matter where it was coming in through ears, eyes, nose, mouth, skin, like no matter what it was, like all of those sensitivities were extreme. I had done the DNRS, dynamic neuroretraining system. It was a year, I think, before that, before I had the stem cells in June of 2018. And that ended up, it's okay, Rosie, it's okay. And that ended up just making, like, I was much, that's what the regression was from. So I had that done, and then the dynamic neuroretraining system, and a lot of the symptoms got better. It was like months of doing that, like religiously, where and like, you know, through the year, but like 6 months of like really being good about sticking to that, and my symptoms were much better. I was able to even like be in a room with somebody with perfume on, which like before, if I was sitting next to somebody with perfume, my face would start breaking out, like especially around my mouth, my nose. It would just start peeling and rashing like almost instantly. Laundry detergent, like everything, it was horrible. So after that, I went to Arizona, and it was like a house with new furniture in it that I was in, and that new furniture was off-gassing, and my entire face just like blew up. I think I have a video about that off-gassing furniture on here as well. So you can see me crying and then falling over that in that video. It was like 100 degrees outside, and I had to sit in the car so we could drive back home to California. So yeah, that was unexpected. And then I just basically was sitting in the house, and I was just in California, and I was just like trying to be, I did go to Tahoe for a couple weeks to visit my friend, and she just let me like hang out there and kind of heal, and so that was amazing. And I have some videos from that as well, like week 1, week 2, week 3, whatever I did like after stem cells, so you can watch those if you're interested. I'm not meaning to like plug all my other videos. It's just that there's so much information from all of this that it's like hard to remember it all, and I can't like say it all in one video. So that's out there if you want to see it. I did notice, like sitting on their deck, that I was looking out at the trees, and I was like, oh my God, I can see more than one tree. I could see like 8 trees at once, which was insane because my vision, I didn't even realize how bad it was. One of the reasons I had stopped driving is because I had like extreme tunnel vision. I could, if I was driving, for example, I started only being able to see the center line of the road and kind of like the bumper of the car in front of me. And when it got to that point, like it happened slowly, and then suddenly I was like, I can't see. And so I had to completely stop driving. This was like back before I had the stem cells, so I hadn't been driving for a couple years, and on and off before that as well, as symptoms would ebb and flow as they always did. So I ended up being able to see suddenly, like, whoa, my vision. So that was an interesting like positive that happened. It was 2 weeks after, and all of a sudden that happened. So that was something that was immediately good that came out of it. Now that did change, that did like kind of do the ebb and flow a little bit, but my vision was clearer after that consistently to some extent. So in December of 2019, at the end, we found out that we had extensive black mold damage in the house that I had grown up in California. So this is the same house I lived in when I was a senior in high school, and we found that area where I was sitting every single day, it was in the family room and the kitchen nook area. So this is where I like spent all my time except for sleeping, and I even slept there sometimes, just because I didn't want to get up and walk up the stairs, which I couldn't even do for a while. So we ended up moving my like sleeping arrangement downstairs. So I was sitting in this area with mold constantly. Now, it wasn't just the mold that was affecting me, because when I was living in Arizona for a couple years and when I was out of the house for a while, I was still having extreme symptoms. To what degree the mold symptoms were better, I'm not entirely sure, because the symptoms were so severe, it's hard to say. Some things did clear up, but the sensory processing, all of that was horrible, and kind of all the time. Maybe got slightly better when I was out of the house. It's hard to say. So anyway, back to like my senior year of high school, when I started getting the depression and anxiety that like was extreme suddenly. I ended up, this was when the window in the family room leaked, and my parents kind of cleaned it up. It was just a small little area that went into the carpet, and they cleaned it up, and whatever, if we just left it at that, we didn't know that there was going to be like some extreme circumstances that could come of this. So when I went to my dorm in Denver, I was in a water damaged basement, and the mold buildup in my system, I just couldn't detox it and process it in the way that some people can, which a lot of people can't either do this, and they just have milder symptoms of it, and something that doesn't completely like stop their world. So I was running on the treadmill, and it just happened to be the time when I had an anaphylactic shock, and I believe it was entirely from the mold. There was nothing I'd eaten before that or anything like that. So when I was in Ireland, the year after that, I was in we were staying in old hotels, and we were in old restaurants, and all the buildings there and everything were, probably moldy. So that's when I had the second anaphylactic shock. And then living in the house in California, it just got worse and worse. So especially after the stem cells, now stem cells can cause like an extreme histamine response in the body, which it did for me. So absolutely everything, my body was just like, danger, danger, like you're having inflammation and extreme reactions to everything. So that, from what I understand, there isn't a ton known about how stem cells work in the body and everything, but it seems like that's a pretty common thing, that you have a huge inflammatory response, and that can lead to lots of histamine production. So after I got out of the house and after the mold was cleaned up, I started to feel a little bit better. It slowly was having the ebbs and flowing of symptoms, where some things were really, really bad, and some things weren't, so severe. But I think it was around like 4 months in or so, I was starting to have even worse symptoms. I was having what they called neural repair, like pretty much almost instantly, which at the time wasn't something that they like even thought was a thing. They thought it took longer. So when I went back to Infusio to do a second treatment, which they called ACT, I said no. And the global diagnostics biofeedback machine told me that my body was in what they called neural repair already, and so I just absolutely said, I'm not doing this, and because that was just going to cause it to be even worse, and I didn't think I needed it. And so I went back home, and I just remember during like some of these months, I just like sat in the bedroom in the complete darkness. I have like a black light filter on my Android phone that basically gets like your phone down to like almost a complete, it's okay babe, almost like a completely black screen, just like enough to be able to see like small outlines and like stuff like that. And that's how I looked at my phone, if I was able to at all. People would come in and sit with me, and I would turn the light on just a little bit, and I would be wearing my dark sunglasses with like the tiniest little bit, sometimes just like the Himalayan lamp covered with a scarf, and all the blinds closed and everything like that. It's okay, babe. Okay. Yeah. So So, we would play games like almost entirely in the dark. It was an interesting time. Just something, even talking, like I couldn't do that sometimes. It was super hard, not only to understand the language, but the sounds of like talking was just too much. So I ended up just sitting alone a lot, or somebody would come in and just sit with me. Somebody would just come in and sit with me. We're out hiking and they're like, hey, come on. Well, we did hike quite a ways, so they're having a little break here, but they're like, what's going on? I'm pet sitting for my friend that I was up here visiting after my stem cells. So, yeah, got these little guys. So, where are we? So yeah, after like this went on for almost a year of, or more than a year of this being super, super bad. Finally in October of 2019, I suddenly had like a little bit of an improvement, and I felt like I could go to Arizona with my friend, who I'm pet sitting for now. Again, she's like a sister to me, so we do a lot together. And we went down there and just spent a couple weeks just hanging out, and I practiced driving, getting in the car for the first time, just getting out of the house and actually going and doing some stuff, hiking. It was just like the first time I was really able to try doing stuff. We even went out to like a nightclub for Halloween. So yeah, it was totally different. When I came home, my mind was like, okay, I am absolutely going to be focused on what I want to do and just keep putting intentions into what it is that I want to be doing. Now, the dynamic neuro retraining system helps you learn to create like futurizations, like future memories of like what you want to happen, where you can actually see and feel and hear yourself in your future visuals of like what you want to be, your life. So I had done a lot of journaling with that. I had done a lot of meditations with that. I had started working with other meditation techniques and different things that I was doing. So this was over like 3 years that I, had started doing this. And then I really, really like the meditations got even more intense, where I was just like laying there for like an hour or two, and I would just like see myself driving. I would see myself doing road trips. I would see myself in loud, crowded places, people with perfume and loud music going, and like having conversations and being totally confident and secure in like what I was doing and who I was. So it was really just a complete like creation of what I wanted myself to be. In December, I started doing Wim Hof breathing and cold therapy. So I would get in the pool and do the breath work. And so I was religiously doing that, especially the cold therapy, not the breathing at first. And then when the temperature started getting hotter out and the pool started getting cooler or hotter at the end of spring, I wasn't able to do the cold therapy in the pool, and the breathing I've been doing religiously now. I met my amazing mentor, and I started working with her, and then started a group with her. She started a group with all these other amazing women, which I joined, and who are now like very quickly have become my best friends. We have completely been working on ourselves and helping each other grow, and working on this visualization of what we want in our future, sharing all this information with each other about what we've been doing to heal ourselves in whatever way that is. And that completely changed my life in a whole nother way. I was able to, since January, start doing things that I had done in my visualization, some of them like coming true and being like, oh my God, I'm actually doing this. Like, this is what I want to be doing, just sitting here on this mountain, the lake right there. This is what I manifested. Being able to drive up here, being able to go out and have conversations with people. Now, January, I really started like living life, and then the end of February, the shutdowns all happened with COVID and everything, so that kind of gave me a short window to experience like normalcy with everything. But at the same time, I am like honestly thankful for it, because it allowed me to not jump into everything super quickly and go for it. It made me like sit back and have to take things a little bit slower instead of fully diving into it, because I will dive into it and wear myself out, which I did this past week when my friends and my family came up to Tahoe for a few days, and I was just go doing kayaking and paddleboarding and hiking and going out to a couple restaurants and just trying to do everything and working and taking care of the animals at the house. And so it was great, and I'm so thankful to be able to do that. I also wore myself down a little bit, so I know that taking things slow after 14 years of being extremely ill, experiencing like many different types of symptoms all across the board. I mean, I couldn't even, like, the symptoms I mentioned and the experiences that I've had are like the tip of the iceberg for everything that's gone on. I swear I have like some kind of like amnesia to help me like protect me from everything that I've been doing. I think I've also like released a lot of that trauma in different ways through different energy healing modalities and lots of different things that I've been doing. So I think that I have released them. I just didn't have to like re-experience them all through like a traditional type of therapy setting. Which brings me back to my mentor and what I've been doing. I've been practicing my own energy healing modality, and it's basically, I noticed a few years ago that I could see, feel, and hear energy that was going on, different, like getting acupuncture, getting different types of like healing touch and Reiki, and my Chinese naturopath did kind of something that I have been doing a little bit, and I started like telling her what I was seeing and hearing and feeling. And by the way, I was seeing 2 different Chinese naturopaths during the time that I had my stem cells, after I'd had my stem cells, religiously. So after the 100 days, which you're not supposed to do anything, you're supposed to just let your little stem cells like find their little places in your body and be able to latch on and heal. So that's what I did. And then after that 100 days, I ended up seeing these 2 different Chinese naturopaths who did totally different things. And the one of them did a type of energy healing modality that I don't know what it's called. And maybe it doesn't have a name, but it was insane, and it like really helped me. And I started talking to her about like what it was, and she started telling me like, and kind of working with me on understanding what it was that was happening with me. So I realized that I had something in me that was what these different practitioners had, that were working with me. And so when I met my mentor, I started she started helping me understand at a totally different level like what was going on, and I rapidly had like this huge like expanse of understanding and knowledge and ways that I was taking things in and seeing and hearing and feeling things. So I started working with people, and I absolutely love it. And I'm getting that business together to be like, to becoming an official business. And I'm also working part-time for my family business, doing social media marketing and some other things. And I do like doing that, and it's really helping me learn. I've had to like push myself to teach myself how to do a bunch of things, and so that was something new and exciting that I was not able to do before either. Even just getting on the phone with somebody was like super stressful, let alone like severe anxiety over being on the phone, and let alone like talking to somebody I didn't know about something that I don't know anything about and trying to learn it. So I did a lot of that stuff and pushed myself past my boundaries in totally new ways. There's so much to say. I can't say it all. I know I'm gonna think of a million other things, but where I'm at now, I am still healing. I am still growing constantly, expanding into myself, learning new things. I'm very excited about my future. Most of my symptoms are gone. I'd say from where I was, especially like a year ago, like a year after I got my stem cells, that I'm about like 95% symptom free. I'm still experiencing sleep issues and restless leg on and off, anxiety on and off, but it will be gone for like weeks, or sometimes there was a couple months where I just didn't experience any anxiety. Putting myself in situations where it's entirely new, where like I'm here by myself, taking care of these wonderful animals down here, and being in a totally new environment, relying completely on myself is something that's totally new, and I'm very excited about it, but it also can create some anxiety, so I'm still experiencing some of that. But at the same time, I get out here and I feel amazing, so I know that getting out in nature is a huge tool for me. Literally sitting on a rock and grounding myself is super, super important. So I think that that's pretty much everything that I can say for this video, which is now like 35 minutes long. So if you have any questions, please comment them and I'll try to answer them all. I guess that's all for now. I hope that the story is like somewhat concise and gives some information, some hope, or anything to whatever it is, whoever's watching. All right, I will see you guys soon. Bye.